chapter 54 is 18 pages. So we might not bother starting chapter 54. We'll see. See how it goes. So don't forget, you can watch previous chapters, well, all the previous chapters on my YouTube channel, or you can find it here. Hello, AGNC. Welcome. Yeah, but welcome anyway. This is the Cloud House Cafe in Stow, where I come every Thursday afternoon and read Moby Dick or some other book. Chapter 53, The Gam. The ostensible reason why Ahab did not go on board of the whaler we had spoken was this. The wind and sea beckoned storms, but even had this not been the case, he would not, after all, perhaps have boarded her, judging by his subsequent conduct on similar occasions. If so, it had been that, by the process of hailing, he had obtained a negative answer to the question he put. For, as it eventually turned out, he cared not to consort even for 5 minutes with any stranger captain, except he could contribute some of the information he so absorbingly sought. But all this might remain inadequately estimated were not something said here of the peculiar usages of whaling vessels when meeting each other in foreign seas, and especially on a common cruising ground. It's very quiet downstairs. If two strangers crossing the Pine Barrens in New York State, or the equally desolate Salisbury Plain in England, if casually encountering each other in such inhospitable wilds, these twain, for the life of them, cannot well avoid a mutual salutation, and stopping for a moment to interchange the news, and perhaps sitting down for a while and resting in concert. Then how much more natural that upon the illimitable Pine Barrens and Salisbury Plains of the seas, two whaling vessels, decrying each other at the ends of the earth, off lone Fanning's Island or the faraway King's Mills. How much more natural, I say, that under such circumstances these ships should not only interchange hails, but come into still closer, more friendly and sociable contact. And especially would this seem to be a matter of course in the case of vessels owned in one seaport, and whose captains, officers, and not a few of the men are personally known to each other, and consequently have all sorts of dear domestic things to talk about. For the long absent ship, the outward bounder perhaps has letters on board. At any rate, she will be sure to let her have some papers of a date or a year or two later than the last one of her blurred and thumb-worn files. And in return for that courtesy, the outward bound ship would receive the latest whaling intelligence from the cruising ground to which she may be destined, a thing of the utmost importance to her. Hello, Wang Dang. And in degree, all this will hold true concerning whaling vessels crossing each other's track on the cruising ground itself, even though they are equally long absent from home. For one of them may have received a transfer of letters from some third, and now far remote vessel, and some of those letters may be for the people of the ship she now meets. Besides, they would exchange the whaling news and have an agreeable chat. For not only would they meet with all the sympathies of sailors, but likewise all the peculiar congenialities arising from a common pursuit and mutually shared privations and perils. Hello, Senator. San Antonio, Texas, I believe. Isn't that right? San Antonio. Nor would difference of country make any very essential difference. That is so long as both parties speak one language, as is the case with Americans and English. Though, to be sure, from the small number of English whalers, such meetings do not very often occur, and when they do occur, there is too apt to be a sort of shyness between them. For your Englishman is rather reserved, and your Yankee does not fancy that sort of thing in anybody but himself. Hello, Paul. Yes, correct, I do. Every week, once a week. Patapsco, where's that? Do Yankees not fancy that sort of thing in anyone but themselves? Thank you, Wang Dang. Appreciate that. Besides, the English whalers sometimes affect a kind of metropolitan superiority over the American whalers, regarding the long, lean Nantucketer with his nondescript provincialisms as a sort of sea peasant. But where this superiority in the English whaleman does really consist, it would be hard to say, seeing that the Yankees in one day collectively kill more whales than all of the English collectively in 10 years. But this is a harmless little foible of the English whalers, which the Nantucketer does not take too much to heart, probably because he knows that he has a few foibles himself. So then, hang on, more coffee. So then, we see that all of these ships separately sailing at sea, the whalers have most reason to be sociable, and they are so. Whereas some merchant ships crossing each other's wake in the mid-Atlantic will oftentimes pass on without so much as a single word of recognition, mutually cutting each other on the high seas, like a brace of dandies in Broadway, and all the time indulging perhaps in finical criticism upon each other's rigs. A little vegan dough. As for men of war, when they chance to meet at sea, they first go through such a string of silly bowings and scrapings, such a ducking of ensigns, that there does not seem to be much right down hearty goodwill and brotherly love about it at all. As touching slave ships meeting, why, they are in such a prodigious hurry, they run away from each other as soon as possible. And as for pirates, well, they chance to cross each other's crossbones. The first hail is, "How many skulls?" The same way that whalers hail, "How many barrels?" And that question once answered, pirates straightway steer apart, for they are infernal villains on both sides, and don't like to see so much over all of each other's villainous likeness. But look at the godly, honest, unostentatious, hospitable, social, free and easy whaler. What does the whaler do when she meets another whaler in any sort of decent weather? She has a gam, a thing so utterly unknown to all other ships that they never heard of the name even, and if by chance they should have heard of it, they only grin at it and repeat some gamesome stuff about spouters and blubber boilers and such like pretty exclamations. Why is it that all merchant seamen, and also all pirates and men of war's men and slave ship sailors cherish such a scornful feeling towards whale ships? This is a question it would be hard to answer, because in the case of pirates, say, I should like to know whether that profession of theirs has any peculiar glory about it. It sometimes ends in uncommon elevation, indeed, but only at the gallows. And besides, when a man is elevated in that odd fashion, he has no proper foundation of his superior altitude. Mr. Frosty says hello, by the way, to Vegan Dough, which they can't see because they're on YouTube rather than on Haps. Hence, I conclude that in boasting himself to be high lifted above a whaleman, in that assertion the pirate has no solid basis to stand on. Very amusing. But what is a gam? You might wear out your index finger running up and down the columns of dictionaries and never find the word. Dr. Johnson never attained to that erudition. Noah Webster's ark does not hold it. Nevertheless, the same expressive word for how now for many years has been in constant use among some 15,000 true-born Yankees. Certainly it needs a definition and should be incorporated into the lexicon. With that view, let me learnedly define it. Backstreet's back, I notice. Gam, noun, a social meeting of two or more whale ships, generally on a cruising ground. When, after exchanging hails, they exchange visits by boat's crews, the two captains remaining, for the time, on board of one ship, and the two chief mates on the other. There is... hang on, my cushion's slipped slightly, there we go. There is another... hang on, more coffee first. More coffee. Before the last long paragraph. I need to cut my moustache a little bit, don't I? Need to trim it slightly. There is another little item about gamming which must not be forgotten here. All professions have their own little peculiarities of detail, and so has the whale fishery. In a pirate, man of war, or slave ship, when the captain is rowed everywhere in his boat, he always sits in the stern sheets on a comfortable, sometimes cushioned seat there. and often steers himself with a pretty little milliner's tiller decorated with gay cords and ribbons. But the whaleboat has no such seat astern, no sofa of that sort whatsoever, and no tiller at all. High times indeed if whaling captains were wheeled about the water on casters like gouty old aldermen in patent chairs. As for the tiller, the whaleboat never admits of any such effeminacy, and therefore in a gamming a complete boat's crew must leave the ship. And hence, at the boat steerer or harpooner is of the number, that subordinate is the steersman upon the occasion, and the captain, having no place in it to sit, is pulled off to his visit, all standing like a pine tree. Lucky captain. And often you will notice that, being conscious of the eyes of the whole visible world was resting on his from the sides of the two ships, this standing captain is all alive to the importance of sustaining his dignity by maintaining his legs. Nor is this any very easy matter, for in his rear is the immense projecting steering oar, hitting him now and then in the small of his back. The after oar reciprocating by rapping his knees in front. He is thus completely wedged before and behind, and can only expand himself sideways by settling down on his stretched legs, but a sudden violent pitch of the boat will often go far to topple him, because length of foundation is nothing without corresponding breadth. Merely make a spread angle of 2 poles and you cannot stand them up. Then again, it would never do in plain sight of the world's riveted eyes, it would never do, I say, for this straddling captain to be seen steadying himself the slightest particle by catching hold of anything with his hands. Indeed, as token of his entire buoyant self-command, he generally carries his hands in his trouser pockets. But perhaps being generally very large, heavy hands, he carries them there for ballast. Nevertheless, there have occurred instances, well authenticated ones too, where the captain has been known for an uncommonly critical moment or two, in a sudden squall, say, to seize hold of the nearest oarsman's hair and hold on there like grim death. End of chapter 53. 10 past. I think what we'll do is we'll end there, because as I say, the next chapter, 54, the town hall story. That's what it says. That's what it says. The town hall story. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? I think we might leave that for next week. Yes, we'll leave that one for next week. And we can just imagine what it says in the coming week. So don't forget, what I'm going to do shortly is I'm going to go to this medieval hospital at Suture Isle. I'll do that soon. It'll take me, I don't know, maybe half an hour to get there, maybe less. So we'll do that momentarily. But what are you thinking of Moby Dick? Are you enjoying it as much as I am? Because I'm really liking the language. It's building up quite slowly. You know, we've still not met the whale. It's building up slowly, but it's really enjoyable. I'm enjoying the kind of deviations into other parts of the story, and you know, like the gamming, telling us about that. It's really evocative, I think. And don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, either live or watching sometime in the future, you can always comment and tell me what you're thinking, if you're enjoying it or not. Well, probably if you are enjoying it, because you probably wouldn't be watching this far into the broadcast if you're not. And tell me why as well. Let me know. And don't forget to follow me either on YouTube or on Twitter or Haps. Follow me there, and you'll see more Moby Dick and lots of other things as well. This is Kelly Clarkson, by the way, I think. Delicious cappuccino. When am I getting my Mac? A couple of weeks. Should be a couple of weeks. I don't think it's one of the ones that they carry in stock, because I added in a different memory setup. So yeah, couldn't find it. Yeah, so it's a couple of weeks. But I'll let you know. I'll very likely I shall unbox it when it arrives. That'll be fun. And then I'll be able to use it for other things. Doing other kinds of broadcasts with it. I'll try not to break it. Yes, I'll try hard not to break it. But I'm excited about it. It's expensive, mind. And that's, as I was saying in the earlier broadcast, I had to replace my television unexpectedly. It says Bewitched, I think it is. What do you like? Yeah, so that's another extra expense that I wasn't expecting. But these things happen, don't they? Good tech ain't cheap, that's true. So my Mac was it £1,450, I think? 1,450, so nearly 1,500, and my television was 460, I think. Ouch, I know, it's nearly £2,000 I'm laying out this month. But much of that came from my viewers, generously sent to me via awards and via my Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal. Just very generous, very nice. Yeah, so fortunately it's not quite as bad as it might be. All those coffees, yes. Nearly finished. Delicious, delicious. So I'll head off to Sutra Isle and show you all that. Do we prefer this angle without the lens on, by the way? I think I took my lens off for reading. Do you think it's better than that? Or do you prefer the big wide angle? Feels a bit more intimate like this. And I think the view is better because you can see the books behind me properly rather than the big wall over there. Yeah, I think I prefer this. But when I'm eating, or if I'm sketching, as I do on a Tuesday morning, better like this, with or without. I think better like this, generally. It's a clearer picture as well. I'm feeling full again now. So I have to do some serious walking or cycling later. Fortunately the sun's gone in, so I might do some cycling later on in the cool of the afternoon. Without, yes. I don't have to thank you. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I shall. Yes, I will, because, I enjoy Sutra Isle. But that reminds me, in case I forget later, I do have a YouTube video of my drone up at Sutra. So you can watch that on YouTube if you search for it there. You'll have to search A9630 Sutra. But you can do that later. This is a good song. It's not the fly again. Not the door. Right. Anyway, I shall leave. Thank you for watching. Thank you for that award. Thank you for your comments. Thanks for listening to me reading the dick. See you all later, everybody. Cheerio, bye. Have a nice Thursday. There. That looks good. Alright. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.